Hello and welcome to Straight to the Point. I'm your host, William J. Gibbs Jr., and I have here today as my guest, Judge Barbara Canales, Nueces County Judge. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Judge, you've been in office now for about a year.
Yes, I can't believe it.
It's flown by.
It's true what they say. It does fly when you're having a good time and there is a purpose behind what you're, dedicating your life to.
So tell me a little bit about you and your background.
Okay, well, first, I guess it's important to note that I was born and raised here in Nueces County, Corpus Christi, Texas, born at Spahn Hospital in the mid-60s and lived my whole life here, went to public school, graduated from Ray High School, and then went to the University of Texas, which had been kind of a family school for generations, and my mom and dad went there, and my grandmother also went there. So I graduated with a degree in petroleum engineering and then actually was married at the end of college and then went to law school at the University of Houston. Started my career in Houston, started my family in Houston, and stayed there till 1996 and came back home and expanded my business and my law practice, and I've enjoyed being involved with the community ever since.
So how has your private sector life prepared you for your current public sector role?
That's interesting. We were just talking about that over the holiday break at Thanksgiving. I think being a mom is an incredible background, which is my private sector life. If you really think about it, its most fundamental core, motherhood, and being having a large family, a blended family of 8 children, being able to manage different personalities, different needs, different wants, has been really just a great blessing, and being involved in their lives, whether it was academic or extracurricular. It exposed me to a wide variety of arts and sciences and athletics, and the fundamental, I think, reason I'm in public service is because of education and healthcare reasons. Those were the passions that moved me a long time ago, and they still move me today, and I find it an interesting background. So having said that, on a more academic private sector, having built my own company, having worked as in a small business space, owning a hotel, owning a restaurant, having a small petroleum engineering development firm, all of those were tremendous backdrops to my public sector life. Being a lawyer, helping people, advocating for people was also a tremendous blend. So I'm not saying it's perfect for everybody, but for me, the science and the law, motherhood, has been a terrific background for my public service now with Nueces County.
So, in your first year, what would you say has been your single greatest professional accomplishment?
Well, I think looking back, I'm going to be most proud of the infrastructure organization that an investment that we are making in Nueces County. For example, creating a capital improvement plan. We had not had one in the county, so we now have a roadmap to assess all our county buildings and facilities as to what their capital needs are. And we now know what those are, how much they'll cost, how we can pay for them over time, and what other funding sources might be available. That's really the nuts and bolts of being able to provide good service across the board, and I'm very proud that we accomplished that goal, and we actually have initiated some of those investments. Chillers in our courthouse, elevators in our courthouse, new roofs, new parking lots in some of our county buildings, just to name a few. But having said that, I would be remiss if my personal accomplishment that I really thought was a tremendous initiative was our initiative for seeing behavioral health care assessments being done countywide and making sure that we had a goal for better health outcomes for the citizens of Nueces County. I'm most proud of those two. I know they're very different, healthcare and infrastructure, but I'm very proud of both of them.
So with regard to infrastructure, some people have in mind the old courthouse.
Yes.
What is the current plan for that building?
Good question. So let me kind of give you a little bit of a background. Back in 2002, our county accepted help from the Texas Historical Commission in the way of dollars and applied those dollars for some repairs. When we accepted those dollars, we also accepted a restrictive covenant to the property that we could not demolish the property until 2027. So the status is that that building will stay put unless we can sell it until 2027 when we have new options on the table. Having said that, I've engaged the help of the Historical Commission to help guide our county as to options that we can work together to create a better opportunity for this grand old, building. What we did was received a feasibility study from the Historical Commission, and that gave us a roadmap, if you will, to how we can address, to a developer's point of view, what this courthouse could be. We also applied for some grants for structural engineering and historical preservation assessment, and we are embarking on those endeavors now. We also have cleaned up the inside, relatively speaking, so it's fit for receiving developers and people who are interested in maybe purchasing the property. And we are actively just maintaining the integrity of what is good, because we know that some areas are not strong and probably would need to be removed, and other areas are fantastic and could be preserved. And so the idea is make certain that we are doing all of the things that the feasibility study outlined for us, and some of those include putting together a developer's package so that someone can come to town and they don't have to guess or worry that if they buy it, will they receive certain incentives. The answer is we're going to go ahead and predetermine that they would receive certain historical tax incentives. Those are both federal and state. Local tax incentives from the TERS board and from the Type A board. And then they would receive a structural engineering report from this new assessment that will be done. So we're putting together a complete package, and that's the status currently. And we have very interested folks right now as we speak who are actively evaluating whether or not they would like to purchase and then remodel with the historic preservation in mind to make it a fantastic boutique hotel.
Okay, so the ultimate plan by the county is to sell it.
Yes.
Okay, so shifting back to your first year here, what, you have a greatest accomplishment, but then there's always the opposite side. What's your greatest disappointment?
So my greatest disappointment is that you can't buy time. Everything takes time. Processes to do things right take time. So I wish I could just snap my fingers and make things better instantly. I wish I could find a way to fix all county roads, together all at once. I want to be able to find my way through the capital improvement plan quicker, but that's not the case. Good things take time, and in order to properly make these investments, because they're taxpayer dollars that we're using, you have to, in many cases, go through the right processes. Sometimes that includes facilities assessments, sometimes that includes doing the pre-design on engineering, and it's shocking how long it takes to get something from A sometimes to Z. But the good news is that we have created efficiencies, and we're very deliberate now, a year later, on how we dart these processes. But I think my greatest disappointment is that I wish we could go faster. I wish I could help people quicker. I wish we could have a jail diversion center up now, even though I know in my heart the right thing to do was to make sure that we had the proper assessment to tell us that we needed it. But I'm ready to do it, and so I would say time.
Tell me about that jail diversion center.
Yeah, so most urban counties have wrestled with overcrowding and population in their jails. Almost every county I know of, both rural and urban, are wrestling with 20 to 30% of their inmates having behavioral health issues, and jail has become the largest psychiatric ward for most counties. The Jail Diversion Assessment Center is really built on helping some people who have behavioral health issues divert them from going to jail when they've committed a very small maybe a Class A or Class B misdemeanor, and they really don't belong in jail. They do belong in a treatment center, for instance. And so in our county, we don't have that kind of a place. We do have a jail diversion program. We're very proud of it, but it could be augmented by having a place where people could get triaged medically first and then assessed for the right services. We need to stop the revolving door. The same people are going back to jail over and over again. And so I'm modeling best practices from other counties, and that jail diversion center is one of the things that I've seen really work in reducing jail population, which helps all of our pocketbooks, because it's very expensive to house people who have behavioral health issues in jail. And let's just say it doesn't do them any good either. And so we need to create accountability and responsibility, but we also need to have a humanitarian and compassionate view of how we're treating people who have illnesses. And so if you commit a criminal trespass because you are having, an episode of some sort of, psychosis, jail's not the best place for you. And so the jail's the only place, in many times, that the police officers have to take folks. So we need to create the right places so people can have the right treatments.
So for your second year, what are some of your goals?
So I would say that my biggest goal is to really see our behavioral health assessments be acted upon. And I mean that I would like to see us have a detox unit, a jail diversion center. I would like to make certain that we fill whatever gaps that we see in our community. I can tell you that adolescent behavioral health treatment is a big gap. If you're poor, it's even a bigger gap. I'd like to see those be a forefront of our Nueces County and hospital district goals. I'm working very hard on continuing our infrastructure plans at the courthouse. I'd like to really concentrate on our creating our courthouse to be a state-of-the-art accessibility locale for folks with disabilities. I think that we're not only under a mandate by the law to do it and by court order to do it, but it's the right thing to do. So I'm looking forward to having a state-of-the-art courtroom that is 100% ADA accessible for all parties, for witnesses, for jurors, for lawyers, for judges, for the public. And so I'm excited about making all our county facilities ADA compliant. And then finally, I'm looking to continue our rebuild efforts after Hurricane Harvey. It's been 2 years, but I will tell you there's still a lot of work to be done. And we need to make our coastline resilient. And so I'm working with the opportunities that the federal government and our state government has given us to apply for grants, to harden our facilities, and to create opportunities so that we can be a resilient coastline.
So what do you think are the most challenging issues long-term facing Nueces County? You talked about some of them, making the resilient coastline, the behavioral health. What are some others?
So I would say that in January, we're going to undergo I hope we're going to bring forth to the court for their consideration a compensation study, so that I want to not only attract the best talent, but I want to keep the best talent in Nueces County. And I can tell you that at the county, with over 1,200 employees, we did a great thing this year. Another accomplishment was to raise the bar and pay people what they were worth. We got to a living wage for over 500 employees. But I will say that all our professional folks are not being paid market value. And as a result, we're losing great people. We're losing district attorneys, county attorneys, department heads, because they're going to other jurisdictions that are paying at least 85% of market value for their type of discipline or profession. I want to make sure that this county understands the services that are given and rendered are directly related to making sure we attract and keep great talent. So I want to absolutely do everything we can to build the county, Nueces County, as an amazing place to come and work and to build a career. It's not just a job, but to build a career. And when we do that, you'll see all services improve. You'll see a culture that I hope, is infectious to other governmental jurisdictions. And that's a very important challenge because it has to do with dollars. And I want to make certain that we manage our growth in our community. We have tremendous growth opportunities with the energy sector, but we need to manage that growth carefully. And then we need to prioritize the dollars that we are given. The legislature wants us to keep taxes low. We understand that. So there's just so much that we can do with the dollars that we receive from property tax. So we need to see our community grow, and that's a challenge because we got to manage the growth at the same time. So it's tricky.
It is, and the economic growth is projected to continue at a rapid pace here.
It really is.
And what is the county's outlook going forward for the next 10 years?
So I think you're right. I think it's an excellent observation. We had 8.5% growth this past year. I bet we get it again this year. I think that you're going to see in the next decade, Nueces County and the coastal bend region is going to be the place to be. It's going to be the place to work. It's going to be the place to come and play. In other words, it's a wonderful tourist destination. It's going to be an energy hub for the Americas, if not the world. We're already the number one crude export port in the nation. I think that all eyes are on our region, and so I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to work together regionally, cities, counties, small and large, because we're going to have to manage this growth. And we already seeing the pressures on infrastructure that growth very rapidly can cause, and I want to be thoughtful about that. And so I think it's going to be an exciting place. I know I'm excited about building a quality of place that I talk about a lot. What does that mean? Well, your quality of life is whether or not you have a good paying job you can provide for your family or your loved ones. But a quality of place is enjoying where you have that quality of life. And that's what I'm trying to create by promoting the right economic development opportunities for our community. And that is what I think is on the horizon. I'm excited about the North Beach redevelopment. I'm excited about our island. I'm excited about Port Aransas' regrowth. I love the opportunity the West Side Business Association is promoting the West Side. And I can see with my own eyes, because I was a part of the Port Commission for 6 years, the industrial growth. So all roads lead to Nueces County.
So with that, you're going to need to keep the infrastructure going, and the infrastructure is going to need to keep up with the growth. That's a Herculean task. So what kinds of plans do you and the commissioners have to make sure that happens?
Right, so for those of you that are listening maybe for the first time about, some of our projects, we borrowed $40 million in certificate of obligation bonds. We did so at tremendously awesome interest rates. We were able to get great interest rates because our rating agencies in the country, Moody's in particular, were able to reevaluate us after this year, after our budget, and they gave us a stable outlook, having reversed us from having a negative outlook the year before I took office. And with that, low interest rates, we were able to borrow $40 million, and we need to be very good stewards of those dollars. We have dedicated $10 million of the 40 to roads, $10 million to infrastructure in county facilities, that's 20. And the other 20, there's $60 million more worth of projects for only $20 million more available, but we will prioritize. So that's one thing. We're going to take advantage, and we have, of the way we had a low debt ceiling, so to speak. We had good bonding capacity, and we had great interest rates, and we had a great financial advisor that guided us through this process. We think this is a great investment in our community. You'll pay twice as much later. We hear about this adage, right? Do you want to pay now? Do you want to pay twice as much tomorrow? If you don't make the investments today, you will pay twice as much tomorrow. Some other innovative things that we're doing is I'm being super aggressive, directing staff and garnering support from our great Commissioners Court to go after aggressively grants. The federal government has $4 billion worth of coastal grants that are available for a variety of projects that have to do with resiliency. We are putting together a dream team internally and using some external consultants as well to go after those grants. We seek to help our community with drainage, another huge challenge, with flood, that's flood mitigation,
Yes.
and with opportunities that come with these dollars are creating facilities that are county driven that can withstand a major storm. You see, they're not just the storms of 50 years anymore, but the storms of 500 years. And so working with our institutions of higher learning, Texas A&M, working with counties and city staff, we're able to do this. So I'm really excited about that.
But how do you keep taxes affordable even for the most struggling of residents in making sure that the infrastructure needs are taken care of?
Yeah, so we're getting clever. So one of the ideas that we just initiated is using energy performance savings contracts. So that told you about that 40 million. Well, I have about $100 million worth of projects and only 40, right?
Right.
So one of the things that we're doing is we're leaning and leveraging on companies who wish to make these investments for us, like energy performance savings contractors. And they say, I'll tell you what, I'll pay for your new roof at that county building. I'll pay for that new HVAC system, or your new LED lighting. And we'll front all the money, we'll build it, and we'll take the delta of the cost savings over time to pay us back. And this has been a very good model for many jurisdictions, and we're using that. So we're going after heavy grant money. For example, we charge 31 cents for every $100 of value, property tax. By the way, that's pretty low in the scheme of Texas. Very low in the scheme of the top 25 counties in Texas by population. We're about number 13, just to kind of give you some perspective. Having said that, what you say is so true. We need to keep making it more and more affordable for families. So 50% of the money you pay in taxes goes to run our county, but just 50. So where does that other 50 come from? It comes from all these innovative ways. That's why asset management is so important. So I'm looking for ways to bring dollars into our county that are outside that tax realm. Energy performance savings contracts is one way, but it's a good way. In fact, we're going to be fixing a lot of our fairgrounds with energy performance savings, where they put the money up and then they take their payment over time back. Pretty innovative.
So how much then of that 30 cents you said?
Yes, 31.
31 cents. How much of that 31 cents goes toward debt service or
Right, so that's a great question.
interest in sinking?
Right, so your interest in sinking is about 4 cents of that, okay? And your road and bridge is also very, very tiny. It's a very small portion of it. You have a hospital district that's not part of your 30 cents. It's about an extra 11 cents for your hospital district. And so all of these combined make up your overall tax rate for the county only. Then you still have your city rate, you have your CCISD rate, right? And these together make up your entire property tax. So sometimes people say your property taxes are high, but you have to look whose are high. The county's high, the school district's high, you know. I will tell you, last year I was most proud that the hospital district tax rate stayed exactly the same. It was the effective rate. We used the same amount that we used the year before, and I'd like to say I think we did more with it. And then from ours, we lowered it ever so slightly. It was higher overall under taxation lending laws, but it was lower than the year before. Barely, just a little, but we were able to lower taxes and still able to do some monumental feats with it. So you're right, it's a huge, huge challenge. It's something that people say to me, what keeps you up at night? That keeps me up at night. Finding new ways to bring in new dollars to this county. And I'll just kind of getting in the weeds, but we were able to hire a company that helped us with, we were losing a lot of money on our indirect cost on grants. And when I say a lot of money, like over $1.5 million, a lot of money. We were able to hire them at no cost to the county. and they do take a small percentage, I think 30%, what they recover, but we're going to be able to bring back to the county hundreds of thousands of dollars that we would have never been able to recover. So you've got to be willing to say, how can I bring in more dollars to my county outside the box?
Yeah, and that's got to be a hard task for you, being that statute considers you the chief budget officer.
It is definitely, the Constitution gives me that mandate, and it's something that we take very seriously. So for example, what do you do when your law enforcement says to you, we need proper resources? I cannot do my job unless you give me proper resources, body armor, body cams, tasers, equipment, right? It's old. This is why capital long-term, or long-range planning is so important. And these are tools that I'm bringing with me from both the private and public sector service that are absolutely needed at our county that had not been done before. So I'm very mindful that I got to give our people, particularly in safety, the tools they need to do their job. And we're really, really big on that. But if I know it's coming, it's a lot easier to plan for it than if you hit me with it and say, I need it now. That's when it's hard. So as long as I know over time what's needed, then I can start marrying needs with resources.
So you were talking about energy before, and Nueces County has benefited greatly from providing services to the Eagle Ford Shale and also to refining a lot of what has come out of the Eagle Ford Shale and other petroleum activity. But that will stop. So how is Nueces County preparing for life after the Eagle Ford?
Yeah, so it's great. It's a classic case of diversification, right? Not putting all your eggs in one basket. I think economic development that I'm looking forward to is the type of economic development that diversifies our heavy petrochemical and energy economy. I can tell you when I was at the port of Corpus Christi, these are the same things we talked about there as well. There are a lot of cargo that gets moved by our port, including wind components for wind energy, which is growing by leaps and bounds across the world. Also, there's a lot of dry bulk, so commodities that move by ship but are not petroleum necessarily based. We used to be a big mover of grain before the tariffs, for instance. That was also a commodity. So it's important to speak about diversified cargo. It's important to speak of diversification as a whole. Even if you believe the models that Permian Basin crude coupled with Eagle Ford will give us another 20-25 years worth of this commodity, you're absolutely right. And that's why this county has invested in an industrial commission whose main focus is to bring new and diverse opportunities in the economic sphere to Nueces County. They've dubbed themselves the Nueces County Development Commission. They have a mission statement. Their vision is called Impact Nueces, and it's all about bolstering the other types of economies that are also $1 billion, like ecotourism. We are home to amazing wildlife and habitat, gorgeous bays and estuaries, fishing, both commercial and recreation. These are all $1 billion industries. We need to foster those. We need urban revitalization so that we can be the type of town that hosts major conventions, right, of grand proportion. So we're encouraging that sector in any way possible to get boosted. Manufacturing is also interesting. Cheap natural gas has allowed manufacturers to do well here. We want to continue to encourage manufacturing here as well. But no doubt, urban revitalization, tourism, and ecotourism are part of the diversification plus diversified cargo at the port that we're pushing, including renewable energy, by the way.
So, speaking of the port, under what circumstances will Nueces County support more representation for San Patricio County on the Port Board of Commissioners?
Well, very simply, when San Patricio grows sufficiently in population, because right now they have perfect representation. There is a model that has been used all over the state of Texas. There is no port that has a commission that's larger than 7 members. There's probably a good reason for that. Of course, historically, it all started from the county, and then city grew, and then 1 more member was added from San Patricio County. Whether you're talking revenues, whether you're talking population, whether you're talking investment dollars, the proportion of 1 member, which is about 66,000 people versus almost 370,000 in Nueces County, is very important. You know, I've been very much in the forefront of this dialogue, and I truly believe that when you sit on that Port Commission, you're not sitting just to represent Nueces County because you're a Nueces County appointee. You're not sitting as a city member just to represent Corpus Christi. When you take that oath as a Port Commissioner, you're there to do what's in the best interest of our port. And our port borders multiple counties: Aransas County, San Patricio County, and Nueces County. But all the water in Corpus Christi Bay, Nueces Bay, all of that water, all those submerged lands belong in the taxing jurisdiction of Nueces County. So all, in my mind, we have a very good system. And if San Patricio with the Census 2020 grows significantly, let's say they grow from 66,000 to 120,000, 130,000, that would be the time to really look at it from a legislative perspective. But I don't think that at this moment that case exists. And I will tell you that when I sat on the Port Commission, I was equally as concerned regionally about Aransas and San Pat as I was about Nueces, because my hat wasn't for Nueces, it was for the Port of Corpus Christi. And of course, that's my own philosophy, right? And I think that, again, we've done amazing work this year, record revenues, you know, just record everything. And that growth, that 8.5% growth that we're seeing here, the lion's share of that growth is because of our port. So I'm very happy to say that stability, the political stability that we have right now, has created an economic engine of gigantic proportion that is helping all of the counties that I mentioned. And I think it would be really good to keep that political stability. And anything that rocks that boat could be detrimental to the future of our region.